Welcome back. As we have seen into the previous scenario, we have seen the actual diagram of our hard disk, that in which manner our hard disk is managed. Now we have seen what kind of partitions were there. We have seen MBR, which is a master boot record, maintain information about all the existing layout of the hard disk and the bootloader. Now in this video we will actually see how to create the partitions and how to manage them. Now in order to understand that in order to learn that all things, we will take a scenario which will give us a better understanding that how to create these all partitions. Now here I have one scenario. I have created one scenario for you. This is one. So let me read the scenario for you. You have been given a task by your manager to plan for the future disk space requirement of your server. Now one task has been allocated to us to plan something for the storage management in future. Now as the first step towards this task is that you're required to find out the following information of the servers. Now it means we're actually going to find out some information about our existing layout of hard disk. Means what kind of partitions are there, how much their sizes are, okay, is there any free space into the hard disk, like this. So please run the appropriate commands to gather the information. Now this section will allow us to learn some new commands. Okay, so what are our goals, what are our tasks? Our tasks are names of the disk attached to your server. We need to find out what kind of a name, or how many hard disks are there which are attached to our system, and what are their names. That we can find out by command just like fdisk. Okay, then after that the second one is what are their sizes of the hard disk. That we can see by using a command parted. And third one that we have to see how much of free space is left onto the each disk. You know, if suppose we have multiple disks attached to our server, so how much of the free space is required, how much also the free space is remaining into the each disk. That also can be found out by the same command parted here. Okay, and in additional, if you want to see that the partitions, whatever the partitions are created onto the system, okay, if you want to see the free space of that partitions, we can use the command df, which says disk free. Okay, so let me switch to my second terminal, which will give us an area where we can fire the commands. So first of all, we will go through our first goal, which says find out how many hard disks are there and what are their names. So for that, as I told you, we are gonna use the fdisk command. Fdisk -l. -l is used for list out all the existing hard disks which is attached to our server. Now let me press the hit the enter. Now there is a huge output in front of us. Let me scroll it. Yeah, here we have first fired the command fdisk -l. And now pay attention, please pay attention to the first line, very first line of the output. That is, it shows disk, means which is the disk we are having, that is /dev/sda. This is our first disk which is attached to our server. And how much size is this? So the size is 10.7 GB, means our DEV SDA is of 10.7 GB. If you convert into the bytes, so this much of bytes are there. Now we also have to see how many partitions are created onto this disk. So we have this output, this block will tell us how much partitions are created onto this disk. So the partition number first is /dev sda1. This is starting from the cylinder 1 and ending on the cylinder 13, and this is the block size. So this is our first partition. Our second partition is /dev sda2, which is starting from this cylinder and ending on to the 992, starting from 13 ending on 992. So this is our second partition. As you can see, it is configured as a Linux LVM, the LVM that we are going to see in our next videos. So these are our two partitions which are created on our disk. So as we can see the output, so we don't have any other disk. It means we have only one disk attached to our server, that is /dev/sda. Now our first goal has been completed, that is finding the names of our disks attached to our server. Now second, what are their sizes and how much free space is left onto the each disk. So for that we will use a command. Let me clear up the screen. So for that we will use a command parted, P-A-R-T-E-D, and just hit an enter. Okay, if you have only one disk attached to your system, it will directly enter into the tool and allow you to fire the tool commands. But if you have more than one disk like DEV-SDA, you have another disk that will be named as DEV-SDB, and if you have furthermore, you have DEV-SDC. So as I have only one disk, that is DEV-SDA1, the tool directly get entered and I have authority to fire the commands now. So for getting the free space and total size of the hard disk, print free. This is the tool command that I have to fire. Once I fire this, it is again showing me naming convention, that is a DEV-SDA having 10.7 GB of size, and the partitions are, this is number 1, this is a boot partition, this is number 2, it is an LVM, and this is the final. These are the primary partition. As we can see here, the type, these are the primary partition. As we have seen into the previous video that Linux supports 4 primary partitions, and from that we usually create 3 primary partitions in order to use all the disk space. I'm sorry. Now the goal that we are heading towards is finding the free size of the hard disk. So this final line, this final record will tell us how much free space is there in our hard disk. So this, under the size section, we can see 3161 means nearby 3 GB of the hard disk is free right now in our system, starting from 7576 MB and ending onto the 10.7 GB. So our second goal has been complete, that is how much free space is of our hard disk, and that is our 3 GB. So that is our second goal is complete. Now how much, what are their size and how much free space is left onto the each disk. Now each disk, we have only one disk, so we find it out, that is how much free space is there. In additional, I want to quit from this. In additional, if you want to see the partition sizes, means how much partition sizes are free, so you can fire the disk free -H for the human readable format. If I hit the enter, so it is showing me I have 3 partitions, sorry. That is, one is for the root, which is having 5.3 GB of size, 3 GB is utilized, and 2.1 GB is available. In percentage, it is showing 59% is free and mounted onto the flash. As like this, if you see the other information, so that is DEV-SDA1, which is of 97 MB, 26 MB is used, and 67 MB is utilized. Sorry, it is available. And finally, the third partition, which is the home partition, mounted onto the slash home, have 485 MB of total size, 11 MB is used, and 449 MB is available. Now this is what the completion of our first scenario, and we have achieved all our goals. Now we can move towards our next section. We can move towards our next scenario, which will actually allows us to manage this hard disk. Okay, so till then, bye bye, and we will meet into our second or our next video. Thank you so much.